Welcome to Raj Online Trainings. Myself Raj. In the series of Spring Boot tutorial, let us go with one more new module, that is Spring Web MVC module. And already I have given the introduction related to the Spring Web MVC module. Today let us go with the architecture, Spring Web MVC architecture. This is very important during interview times. So what is this MVC is? MVC stands for Model View and Controller. And the main use of going with Spring Boot Web MVC is it is used to develop web applications as well as distributed applications. Distributed application means application to application communication. And how it is done by using Spring Boot? By going with Spring REST. By using Spring REST, we can develop Spring Boot distributed applications. And the main use of going with MVC architecture is MVC architecture is used to make the model independent of you. When we are developing the application, business logic is very important. When you are writing the business logic, we should not depend on the view part. So when you are writing the business logic, that is model, that model should be totally independent of view. Any changes required, then we just come to the respective model and do the changes without depending on the view part. And the main use of going with MVC is very important. It is used to make the model independent of view. Now let us see the architecture, Spring Boot Web MVC architecture. Whenever a request is made by the client, it is going to invoke the dispatcher servlet. This dispatcher servlet is the front-end controller in Spring MVC. Very important interview question. What is the front-end controller in Spring Web MVC is? The answer is dispatcher servlet. Whenever a request is made, it is going to invoke dispatcher servlet. Dispatcher servlet, based on the URL pattern, it goes to the handler mapper. The use of handler mapper is it identifies which request should be processed by which controller. What is the use of handler mapper? It is used to identify which request should be processed by which controller and which method. Then the details are given back to dispatcher servlet, the controller details, and based on the details, the request is forwarded to the controller to process the request. So controller is going to process the request and it is going to provide the details about model and view. What is the role of controller? It handles the request and decides response to send using model and view object. Then, based on this model and view object, it's going to provide the view name. Now, here that view details are given to view resolver. What is the use of view resolver? Used to identify physical location of view files. Where our view files are located, that details it is going to identify by view resolver. So what it is going to have? It's going to have the prefix and the view name and suffix. When we see our first example, I'll be discussing this. What is this prefix, view name and suffix? Those details are given back to the dispatcher servlet. So what view resolver is going to give? The location of the view file. Based on the location of view file, dispatcher servlet is going to invoke the view. So the view can be a JSP file or it can be a timely file. By using timely also, we can take care of the view part, which we are going to discuss about timely also in the next videos. Then the view is going to render the result back to dispatcher servlet, and dispatcher servlet is going to provide the response back to the client. This architecture is very important. Please recap this architecture. Let me provide the details once again. Dispatcher servlet is the front-end controller. What is the use of handler mapper? Identifies which request should be processed by which controller and which method. Controller handles request and decides response to send using model and view object. And what is the use of model and view? Model represents data in key value format. View represents logical file name to display, which file name to be displayed. And view resolver is used to identify physical location of view files. So this is very, very important. Please recap this. In the next video, we are going to develop our first Spring Web MVC application. Please subscribe, like and share. Thank you.